up? What is up?
Hey, sir.
Hello, hello.
It sounds like you outside.
I'm not.
Oh, oh, okay.
How are
I'm,
you?
I was good until I woke up this morning and it was 47 and I had to turn on the heat and now it's supposed to get down to the 30s tonight and I am not well with that.
We just completely skipped fall.
Right. Just
Just
completely. Just said screw fall. We over here.
it's cold up here too, so I definitely know the feeling.
Child. Well, it's always cold up there.
I mean, I wouldn't say always, but a majority of the year, yes, I would say that. I would definitely say so, yes.
I mean, I was not well with it being 47 this morning and it's scheduled to be I think I think it's right now it's up to a steamy hot and steamy. It got all the way up to 50. And tonight it is going to get down to 34.
Yeah, let me see what it is right now. We had a low of 33 today, and we have a low of 33 tomorrow. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be 33 about 5 in the morning.
So, yeah, this is not going to be fun. Anyway, nevertheless, We are here keeping it toasty.
I wish I got my heat on.
I
I'm
got
chill.
my heat on too. Listen, the heat is on. The heat is on.
Forget the mic. The
The
heat is
heat is on.
on.
The heat is on. On the street. The heat is. I've had this plethora of 80s songs just ringing through my head all day long.
I
I
don't
don't
know why.
know why.
I don't know why. It's
I
not
don't know
good.
why either. There were some great 80s songs now.
Name
Great
three.
songs. I could name 83. I could name 300.
Name
80?
three. Name
Name
three.
what genre? Name a genre.
Surprise me.
Well, the songs I was thinking about today was Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams was in my head
Mhm.
all my all day long. And then I was God, don't laugh at me. Okay. I was singing Su Su Studio by Phil Collins. And don't do that. Don't do Phil Collins like that. Don't do that to Phil Collins now. Do not do that.
I don't have anything to say.
And then I was singing the high note on Take On Me just randomly every like 30 minutes or so. Just that one high note. Woo! That high note right there. Because it goes, take on me, take on me, take me on, take on me, I'll be gone, be gone, woo! And I was just randomly singing the high note from that song all day, all day. Hey, everybody in the chat, don't pay us no mind. We just over here shooting this shit and talking about me and 80 songs being caught in my head.
The '80s is just surprising, but
It was some
nah.
great songs in the 80s. Also, another song that's been in my head, there is always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. That song has been in my head too.
I could get Sweet Dreams. I could get that for sure.
You don't like Phil Collins, Susu Studio? Oh, you would not disrespect the Phil Collins and the
I would prefer to
Phil
listen to
Collins.
Duran Duran, "Hungry Like the Wolf," and that's probably my least favorite song by them.
Disrespectful to the Phil and to the Collins. Anyway,
You
Phil
acting like he's
Collins.
Journey or somebody. He's not Journey.
Phil Collins is a phenomenal artist.
To you. To you.
I'm not doing this with you.
Uh, Look, we clearly have different tastes in music, and that's okay.
That is
Diversity
perfectly.
is the spice that keeps the world going.
Listen,
We all can't be putting paprika on and not doing nothing but adding color.
listen. Phil Collins and Genesis is everything, okay? Everything.
Oh, I'm so happy you feel very strongly about it.
Yeah.
No, I do
Child.
know. It's just not my thing. But
Anyway, so today, sir, we got some things to talk about. We are officially what 21 days, right?
we just need to get there already. I'm just ready to go cash
I'm
this damn
tired of
app.
the ad. I'm sick of the ads. That's just
I'm
me.
sick of this. I'm
The
glad this is a
ads,
shortened election season.
the ads are sending me into you. Jesus God, but we are officially 21 days until elections. Early voting. I will go through. I'm actually going to go through every state and
Okay.
go through early voting for each state so that we're aware of what it is. On today's agenda, we will go through Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for Black men. We'll talk a little bit about the early voting. We'll talk about Trump's economic plan. We will also talk about that decision in Georgia with their elections. And then we'll excuse me, and then we'll get to some foreign policy stuff with Israel and with South Korea. North and South Korea, I should say. Yeah. So we got a
Yeah.
jam-packed show. Jam packed.
Packed full of jam.
Yes. So we're gonna do all of the things, talk about all of the things. Make sure you put your questions in the chat. And we may have some audience participation. So I'm going to say if you ever want to come up, here's a link. If you want to come up and ask your question and let us hear your voice, you don't got to show your face, but you can always come up, keep your camera off and let us hear your voice and ask your question up here or add to the commentary. We don't bite unless you need us to. Anyway, so you know what, Cams? Let me get this out of the way now with what's left of my Gatorade to coat my throat afterwards. So let me go through the states and then we'll tackle early voting. And then after we do early voting, we'll talk about the Harris plan for Black men.
Okay.
All right. Where am I? Wrong hole, fool. Wrong hole.
Any hole is a goal.
That's what they said. All right. We'll start from the top. Alabama. Alabama does not have early voting.
Shocker.
They do not have early voting. Alaska. In Alaska, it varies by location, but 15 days before election day in most cases. And then the end of early voting varies by location, but many early voting locations remain open through election day. In Arizona, they have already started early voting. It starts 27 days before election day and it ends the Friday before the election. But some counties may offer emergency early voting through through the day before election day. In Arkansas, their early voting starts on Monday. Their early voting starts next week, Monday, which would be the 21st, and which is 15 days before the election. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, which is 15 days before the general election. I got that right. So it ends the Monday before election day. So it goes for 2 weeks. California, they have already started their early voting. It starts 29 days before election days, but it does vary by county. Voters should contact their county election office to see if they offer early voting because there may be some areas that don't, but most areas do offer early voting, which happens 29 days before, starts 29 days before election days. The end of early voting in California for most areas is the day before election day, but it still could vary by county. So make sure you contact your local elections office to make sure that you have all of that um, figured out. Colorado has mail-in voting, but in-person early voting centers open beginning next Monday on the 20th, on the 21st, excuse me, 15 days before voting, before election day. There are some exceptionalities where the end date may change, where the beginning date may change, but for all counties, um the in-person voting centers are open through election day. For Connecticut, the general election, early voting starts next week, Monday, 15 days before election day. And it ends I'm sorry, Sunday the 3rd. It ends 2 days before election day in Connecticut. In Delaware, um, the early voting starts at least 10 days before election day, and it ends the Sunday before election days. Now, if it starts prior to 10 days before election day, then that means that you would need to contact your local elections office. But 10 days prior to election day would put it at the what is that, Saturday? It would be the Saturday. Uh
The second.
no, no, it would be the Saturday before that, which is the 26th.
26.
And they end the Sunday before election day. For Washington, D.C., the early voting varies as the period is set by the Board of Elections, but not more than 12 days before election day. And because it varies by period, varies as the period is set by the Board of Elections in District of Columbia, you really need to check um, uh, the your local office. However, the earliest that they would start would be next week Thursday, which would be the 24th. Okay. So that'd be the earliest that they would start, which would be the 24th. In Florida, um, in-person early elections start at least 10 days before election day. Florida varies by county, so you really, if you live in Florida, you need to go to your county. I know that personally, and each county has a supervisor of elections, and they do have some overall state rules, but the state rule says you can it will start no later than 10 days before early election. That's the latest that it'll start. But you need to start, because some areas have already started. Some areas won't start until the 10 days before. And that will put it at that Saturday, the 26th. Um, and for the end of early voting cannot end prior to the third day before election day. So it cannot end before November 2nd. Exact dates, like I said, vary by county. So in Florida, you really need to contact your county's your supervisor of elections in that particular county. The In Georgia, their early in-person voting starts the fourth Monday before election day, which was last which was last week Monday. And it goes through the Friday before election day. In Hawaii, uh, they have transitioned to all mail-in voting starting in 2020, but voters may turn in ballots, register to vote, and vote in person at a voter service center in their county starting 10 business days, 10 business days before elections. Um, so check with your local election supervisor. I mean, your local elections officials. In Idaho, not all counties allow early voting. For those that do, early voting begins the third Monday before election day, which would have been yesterday. Um, Voters should contact their county elections office for additional information. Not Also, for those that do offer early voting ends at 5 p.m. on the Friday before election day, which is November 1st. In Illinois, they start early voting in person 40 days before election day. That has already started. And they end one day before election day. In Indiana, they start 28 days before election day, which would have been last week, Tuesday, and they end the day before election day. In Iowa, they start 20 days before election day, which would be tomorrow. Um, and that's for in-person absentee voting. That's all they have is in-person absentee voting. Um, it ends the day before election day unless the polls open at noon. If the polls open at noon, you may vote early for absentee in-person voting at the county auditor's office from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on election day. It's a lot of rules they try to make over there in Iowa. They do not want nobody to go vote. In Kansas, you have up to 20 days before election day, but not later than 1 week before election day. You have up to 20 days before election day, but no later than 1 week before election day for it to start. It varies by county. For the end of early voting, you have up to the day before election day, but it still varies by county. In Kentucky, early voting is 5 days before election day, and before election day, which would be that Thursday, and it ends the Saturday before election day, which is that uh which is 2 days after they started. So you got 2 days in Kentucky. 2 days. I'm sorry, 3 days. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Mess. Louisiana, early voting in person begins 14 days before election day, but 18 days before election day for presidential elections. So that means that it would start, what's today? 21 days. That means it would start Friday. When one or more state holidays fall within early voting period, the first day for early voting will begin 15 days prior to the election. That's a lot of stipulations. It ends 7 days before the elections. That's a lot of red tape and a lot of trying to get people not to vote. In Maine, it starts 30 days before election day for in person absentee voting, and it ends 3 days, 3 business days before election day. So that would be Monday, Friday, and Thursday. So it would end that Thursday before elections. In Maryland, early voting, in person voting starts the second Thursday before election day. So that would be this Thursday. Hold on, let me check for you. No, it would start next week Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Maryland, early voting will start on October 24th and it will end the Thursday before election day. So you have 1 week in Maryland for early voting. 1 week. In Massachusetts, early voting begins the 17th day before election day for the general election. The 17th day. Dear God. Let me look at the calendar. So that will put you at Saturday the 19th. That's this Saturday. And it ends the fourth business day before election day for the general election. So that will put you at ending on the 23rd. I'm sorry, not the 23rd, ending on the 30th. Yeah, because 1, 2, 3, 4. It ends on the Wednesday, the 30th. Dear God. For Michigan, it begins the second Saturday prior to election day, which is next Saturday. Not this coming Saturday, but Saturday the 26th. And it ends the Sunday before election day on the 3rd. In Minnesota, it starts 46 days before election day, and that's for in person absentee voting. And it ends the day before election day for in person absentee voting. That sounds real easy to me.
Same day registration is a thing here as well.
In Mississippi, they start 45 days before election day for eligible, for eligible, for eligible absentee voters, and they end 3 days before election day at 12 p.m. for eligible absentee voters. In Missouri, they offer in person, no excuse absentee voting at locations designated by local county elections authorities starting the second Tuesday before election day, which would be next Tuesday. A qualifying photo ID is required to vote by no excuse absentee ballot in person. It and their early voting ends the day before elections. In Montana, they start 30 days before election day for in-person absentee voting, and they end noon on the day before election day for in-person absentee voting. In Nebraska, they also start 30 days before election day and they end 1 day before election day. In Nevada, they start 17 days before election day, which would be Saturday, this Saturday the 19th, and it would end 4 days before election day, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4 Friday. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be Friday the 1st. In New Hampshire does not offer in-person early or no excuse absentee voting. There's no early voting in New Hampshire. I
Okay.
didn't say vote by mail. This is all in-person early voting. In New Jersey, they early in-person early voting starts 10 days before the general election, which would be Saturday the 26th, and it ends 2 days before the election, which would be on Sunday the 3rd of November. In New Mexico, they start 28 days before election, which would have been last week Tuesday, November 8th, and they end the Saturday before election day, which is November 2nd. In New York, they start early vote in-person voting 10 days before the election, which I just said was when. I said that was when. The 26th? Yeah. And it ends 2 days before elections, which is Sunday the 3rd. In North Carolina, um, their in-person early voting starts not earlier than the third Thursday before election day. The third Thursday before election day is this coming Wednesday.
17.
And it ends the Saturday before election day. In North Dakota, their in person early voting starts at least 15 days before election day, which would have been, which is this coming Monday, the 21st, but it still varies by counties. And if you do, whenever you do start, it ends the day before election day. In Ohio, they start 29 days before election day. That would have been last week, Monday, which is the 7th. Um, and that's the day after registration closes, but will be altered if the date that registration closes or the voter registration deadlines falls on a Sunday or holiday. It ends 5 p.m. on the Sunday before election day. In Oklahoma, uh, it starts the Thursday before election day. I'm sorry, the Wednesday before election day is when they start early in-person voting, and it ends at 2 p.m. the Saturday before election day. In in Oregon has all mail-in ballots. If you want to vote early, there's no in-person early voting; it's all mail-in. In Pennsylvania, it varies by county. Pennsylvania does not offer early voting, but counties may make absentee and mail in ballot applications available to voters in person up to 50 days before election day. So you definitely need to contact your local election office. Absentee and mail in ballots may be dropped off in county offices until 8 p.m. on election day. In Rhode Island, they start in person early voting 20 days before election day, which is tomorrow, the 16th, and it ends the day before election day. In South Carolina, they start 15 days before election day, which is next Monday, the 21st, and it ends the Saturday before election day. In South Dakota, they start early in person voting 46 days before election day for in person absentee voting, and it ends the day before election day at 5 p.m. In Tennessee, they start early in person voting 20 days before election day, which is going to be the 23rd of this month next week. I'm sorry, which is tomorrow. Excuse me. That would be tomorrow, the 16th. And they end 5 days before election day, except for presidential preference primaries when it is 7 days before the election. So this is going to end 5 days before the election, which would be Thursday, the 31st of October. In Texas, they begin 17 days before election day, unless the 17th day is a national holiday or the weekend. Then voting begins the next day. So 17 days would be what's the day? I said 21. The 17th there is a Saturday, which is the weekend. So it's going to start on the next business day, which is going to be the 21st. So Texas will begin next week, Monday. And it ends 4 days before Election Day, which is Friday, the 1st of November. In Utah, they start 14 days before Election Day, which is the 22nd of October, and they will end 4 days before Election Day. In Vermont, they start 45 days before Election Day, and they end the day before Election Day. In Virginia, they start 45 days before Election Day as well, for in person absentee voting, and they end 3 days before Election Day for in person absentee voting at 5 p.m., and that's going to be Saturday, November 2nd at 5 p.m. In Washington State, they start 18 days before Election Day. They end the day before Election Day. In West Virginia, they start 13 days before Election Day, which will be the 23rd of October, and they end 3 days before Election Day, which is November 2nd. In Wisconsin, they start no earlier than 14 days before Election Day, which is next week, Tuesday, the 22nd, and they end no later than the Sunday before Election Day. And finally, in Wyoming, they start 28 days before Election Day for in person absentee voting. And that would have been last week, Tuesday, November 8th, and they end the day before Election Day for in person absentee voting. If you live in a territory that votes, you will need to contact your local election officials. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and non binary gender conforming members of our audience, is your rundown of every single early voting day in these yet to be United States of America. And now I need a drink.
Should have put some gin in it.
Anything, sir?
Just note which states make it harder to vote.
Right. In that same vein, we do have news out of Georgia. They started early voting yesterday. And according to elections officials, they're saying by the end of the day, I'm sorry, the first day of early voting was today. Was it today or last week? No, it was today. Today was the first day of early voting. By the end of the day, they had 305,900 votes that had been cast in person, and that's according to Georgia's Secretary of State and website. That is the first day of early voting back in 2020. They had 136,000. This is more than double that in the great state of Georgia. If you should need them, that is that encouraging to you, or do you feel like that's not encouraging?
I mean, it's encouraging to me because we know the demographics that vote early. We know that it tends to benefit one party over the other. So you just can't be expecting a big bump on election day if you have large, populations voting early. But I will
Well,
say that
I
is.
kind of feel different though, because what you see is you do see though what they do is in some states, they add the early bump early. Like some states, they'll already have it counted. So when it comes in, you can project if it's overwhelming. So you'll get the big early vote bump. Some states purposely choose not to count the early votes or absentee until last.
Hmm.
And so you get that big bump afterwards, after they've counted the day or the election day votes.
Sometimes they do it after the polls close, which is just ridiculous. We have the technology to wrap it up same day.
I mean, you would think we were living in archaic times.
Well, I mean, with how Georgia, that state board wants to keep changing all the rules so close to the election, which I don't even
Speaking
think
of
that.
which, let's just go ahead and tackle that. Let's tackle that. Let's tackle that. Georgia tried to have these draconian methods for voting where they said that they had to be counted by hand and it had to be two different individuals of opposing party lines and they had to match perfectly, and if they didn't match perfectly it had to be counted all over again, and it just became this arduous process that they were trying to take each person through. And it's not hard in some of the rural areas where you don't have as many, but when you're in urban centers like Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, Columbus, these urban centers where there are going to be millions of Democratic votes, they were purposely trying to make it hard and arduous for election supervisors to, first of all, finish, and secondly certify those particular votes. But a judge did rule in saying that, yeah, whatever you do, your votes got to be certified by the date that the law sets, which is that Monday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, it was very worrying to me that I think they mentioned Julie Adams, who's a Republican on the Fulton County
Hmm.
Board of Elections. She was trying to get the judge to say that certifying the election is discretionary versus mandatory. As if, well, I mean, we don't have to certify the election.
Well, a couple things even with that. Well, I did misspeak. The law says that it has to be certified the Monday by Monday at 5 o'clock after election date, but that Monday is a holiday this year, which is what Veterans Day, or I think it's Veterans Day. So, or I don't know if it's a holiday on that Monday. I can't remember what holiday. Check me on that, Kamz. I think it is Veterans Day, which is the 11th, right? Is that
Yeah,
Veterans?
Veterans Day is the 11th.
Yeah, so it would be that's why. So they have until that Tuesday. But my other part is the reason that doesn't want to certify it is, remember Georgia passed that law that their state legislator, in the absence of a certified election, their state legislator can decide who the electoral college votes go to. That law is in place in the great state of Georgia, as well as several other states, where their state legislature would then be able to certify that election and dictate and decide where those electoral college votes would go, preempting or usurping, I should say, the will of the people.
Yeah, they keep mentioning this Adams lady and how she doesn't. There's been several elections where she's declined to certify them, as well as several counties in Georgia have declined to certify elections since 2020. Very interesting that you could just choose to not do your job as an election
Mm.
official.
Mind you, y'all have been doing this for freaking decades now, literally centuries now. And then all of a sudden, I mean, even before we had computers, punch cards, or anything, when they were handwriting, they were able to do this in a much more simpler process than what these people are trying to make it like. You would think that they were doing like archaic times where they go vote by vote and they have three tellers that it has to go, each vote has to go through each of the tellers, and they have to look, and the adjudicators have to look at it. They go, what? You would think we were doing that like back in the old days in the 1817 and 1800s or some shit.
I just don't. If your policy ideas are not that great, then choose some fucking new ones. That's how you win elections. Convince the people that you're the better option. What happened to that?
They don't believe there is a better option than them, and they mean that, and by doing that they mean that means that they will take it by any means necessary. There is no option but theirs. Leave it to them.
I mean, they
Uh,
like fascism, so there's that.
there's that, and then there's that. But I also find it real funny. Some of the polling you'll see from these likely early voters in battleground states that say, "Oh, well, it's we're voting for Trump, but Trump is up in early voting." Let's be clear, and I don't think it will change. Traditional early voting has always swayed Democrats, always. Even when it was first enacted, and believe it or not, Republicans are the ones who first enacted early voting. That was something the Republican Party came up with. They started that. But the Democrats learned the system and got their people out. And now they try to do everything they were trying in the previous 3-4 election cycles to do everything to get people from early voting. Now they've switched up again and going to try to tell all of their people to early vote. But the problem is I don't know that the Republicans can ramp up that amount of numbers to overcome the Democratic base that votes early. Like that's a staple within the Democratic Party. So these all of these polls about likely early voters, I don't know how much I credence I give to them. Um but I don't know. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think the Republicans have shot themselves in the foot with the mistrust they put in elections in general. So like you've subverted the entire process, and you've told them that basically it's illegitimate. So some people just aren't going to get out there. They're like, "What's the point of me voting early? They're just going to throw my vote away." That's how they stole the last election. I mean, these are what some people are really saying on the internet. Like this is what people really believe. So just like I think that it's going to backfire on them with all of this election denialism that they've done since 2020. So I think that they won't show up early. They'll probably vote the day of.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see what they do with that vote because they don't trust the process anymore.
And now that you have in states like Georgia, like what we saw today, record numbers of early voting, and you're going to start to see other states down south, Texas, Florida's about to start early voting. If some counties have already, Texas is about to start early voting. It's kind of hard in those states where they go by county, and it's easier where the whole state goes, at the same time. But I am curious to see what some of these early voting numbers look like. Like I venture to tell you, um, around the week before elections, which would be what, the 29th, they will have a good idea of how many early votes they have this election cycle as opposed to previous election cycles, and that'll be scary for a lot of states, especially southern states. You're talking Florida, which not only has the presidential race, but it has that
And right.
Senate race, as well as in Texas, which is the same way, where they not only have the presidential race, but they have a very close Senate race. And Florida also has abortion on the ballot and recreational marijuana. So, some other states, if they really, I could see a South Carolina having a large turnout. Certainly, North Carolina. I fully expect North Carolina to go blue and have a large amount of early voting. I will say Georgia alleges, now I'm just going to say alleges, that the hurricane Helene had no impact on early voting or mail-in ballots.
That's what I wanted to ask you while you were like, what do we think the impact is on those southeastern states
Well,
from?
that's what they claim. That's what Georgia said. Now we ain't heard nothing from North Carolina. Well, North Carolina said it's still up in the air because they still got a lot of people without power, but Georgia still got a lot of people without power over in Augusta and stuff like that. Like they were devastated over there.
Shout out to Augusta.
Child, I don't had a lot of military trade over in the AUG over there. What fort that is?
Gordon.
Fort, yes.
Home of the
Child,
Signal Corps.
child. If you ain't been through the AUG, mm, child, that's the military trade over there, honey. Between there and Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Oh, here you go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I got distracted. But no, would I have seen you over in the AUG?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
When I was down there, I was talking to someone who's
Mm-hmm.
way too old for me.
Mm.
I was young and wild. What I
When I
think?
went through the AUG, I was, oh God, I used to have to go up there for something, and I'd
That's
be
my.
there like once every 2 weeks. This was like 2012, 2013.
Oh, that was at. See, I was there in 2011.
Oh, I was so young and dumb and full of cum. It was just so ridiculous. It was. Oh, I still look 12 then. Oh dear God. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Let me focus. Focus.
Okay.
Focus. Focus, L Teddy. Focus. But this early voting, I think if we see record numbers across the South with early voting, that really doesn't bode well for the Republicans. I'll just be honest. It does not bode well for them at all if you see record numbers in the South.
I mean, well, there's already some internal talk, or their polling is showing that they're like not doing well. So there, it's not going to be a surprise. Whatever these elections are, I think within those internal pollsters know what's going on,
Mm.
and they have been sounding the alarm bells for several different races. So we'll see. I'm just following the Senate races because I think those are going to be the real interesting ones. I really want to.
That's what the rubber's going to hit the pavement. Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking
Um.
all these judicial appointments.
So
Are we
let's
going
go,
to?
let's go ahead and attack. Look at this. Harris opportunity agenda for Black men. Now I sent you a an article where they spoke
Did
to. the fact that people were doing what they do, they were with the fuck shit. Absolutely with the fuck shit. Talking about, oh, well, it's too little, too late. And, oh, well, this is just a last ditch effort after the whole Obama debacle. And this is just a last ditch effort. And we're not dumb. We're not fools. We see it for what it is. And it's not going to work. And I was like, interesting.
It's a white lady. The first thing I looked up was who's writing this. I always want to know who's writing it. And I'm just like,
Me too.
nobody has quite the audacity of a white woman talking about the black community.
White women think they have ownership of the black community. Leave it to them. Like they think they own. I'm telling you, more so than their husbands or their male counterparts. White men just walk around with their privilege and supremacy. The real ownership of black people, I swear, at every part of black culture, black life, and who we are as a people, I swear white women believe they own. I swear to you, white women believe they own it. But and I said this yesterday on my platform. I I don't care if she put it out 100 days ago, 1,000 days ago, the day of elections.
It's not gonna be
Here's
good
the
enough.
huh?
It's not gonna be good enough. There's always gonna
Exactly.
be, then there's gonna be the people. Well, why couldn't she have already done this? Forgetting that Harris is the vice president and that they, need to read the Constitution. She just doesn't get to make those calls. That's the president. So she's not Joe Biden.
My thing about it is, you tell me, and I'll wait because you are the political scientist on here. Tell me when you have ever had any presidential candidate put out, and in modern history, I'm talking from Clinton on. So I'll call that modern, from the 92 election on. So we'll go back 32
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Um have had any agenda for black men, black women, or black anything. I'll wait.
No, it was always the aggregation, right? So what benefits the greater society will ultimately benefit black people. It wasn't anything specific to a black agenda.
And that's even from a black president.
Yeah.
And so when people come with all of this bullshit about, oh, well, why now? Or, oh, we see what this is, or you people are never going to be satisfied. You're always going to move the goalpost. These are people who are constantly moving the goalposts. And I have said from the beginning, any of these people trying to argue with you about reasons not to vote for her, we're never going to vote for her. It doesn't matter what she did, what she says, how much she appeases them, the goalposts will always move. They're never going to be satisfied because it has nothing to do with her doing anything for them, everything to do with who she is and the fact that they don't want to vote for her because of who she is. And that's a black woman. So much so, people want to have a reason to not vote for her by trying to make it seem as if she's not a black woman. So you have literal black people trying to tell me that the woman is not black, so that gives them credence with which to say I'm not going to vote for her.
And
This-
to your earlier point, they were never going to vote for her anyway. Like, you don't have to
exactly.
convince me of your vote. I don't care. Quietly vote for who you're going to vote for and move on. But don't try to spread misinformation and disinformation to support your feelings, because that's really what it is. And, some black men are all over social media. She ain't trying to do enough for us. She not trying to do this. She not trying to do that. And I'm just like, what is the other side doing? Because I don't like unfair criticism. If we're going to criticize one, we need to criticize both. I said, because Project 2025 is their policy, even though they're saying that it's not. Project 2025 is there. So, in comparison to Project 2025, what's better for you as a black man? Really need to weigh those pros and those cons. But some people like, well, he gave me that stimulus check. That's why some people are voting for him because you got a stimulus check. Okay.
Like it baffles my mind. Baffles my mind. That's why I don't get into arguments with these people. I do not get into arguments with these people because I was at the gas station the other day. Dear God, I was getting some gas, and there was this young black guy, looked to be maybe, I would say maybe 28, 29, sitting
Mm-hmm.
there having listening to this older black man who looked to be probably mid to late 60s. And this older black man was explaining all of the reasons why Kamala Harris was wrong. Then he went into his whole diatribe. Now I'm listening to this as I go get, because I didn't want to pay at the pump, because when you pay at the pump they take like $150 out your damn whole a whole $150 hold on your account, and I don't like that. So I'll get out my car. I hear parts of the conversation. I go inside, pay for my gas, come back outside. They still going, pump my gas, listen to them, and then he went into this whole thing about the LGBTQ plus community, and it was just all of this. Woe is, well, I shouldn't say woe is me, but he made it seem like the only person that could help a black man in America was Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And I literally sat there, and this was a older black man that looked disheveled and not. I shouldn't put. I should make a cast aspersions on this man based on how he looked. However, if I was to say he looked unhoused, I would say he looked unhoused. Anyway, I just do not understand. And that young black brother was sitting there eating it up, just taking it all in. And these are conversations, and I said that to say this. You see this, especially amongst black men, all over the place, all over the place, and it just baffles my mind. Now, mind you, I don't have any reason to believe that either of them were actually going to go out and cast a vote, which also baffles my mind, Kamz, because the people making the most noise are people who ain't going their ass out there and voting at all.
Or can't vote.
Well, then there's that.
I mean, I've had some conversations where, people are saying that, a woman is not going to advocate for a black man. And I was like, well, I mean, you've been coddled by black women your entire life, which is why we're here. That's why we're here.
I mean, let's be clear, Cavs. Black women advocate for black men more than we advocate for ourselves. Okay,
You hit the nail
they
on the head there.
they coddle black men more than we need to be. Like, if anybody is gonna look out for a black man, it is a black woman. More than we look out for our damn selves, because we'll look at another black man and be like, I don't give a damn. But a black woman is the first one in line. Because it ain't the white women, because white women only here for one thing. They're here for one thing.
BBC, we ain't talking about the channel.
Right. There, and it may be another thing if you happen to be somebody who about to get a bag because you might be going to be drafted somewhere in some professional sport, or maybe you got some money because you are an entertainer or something like that. Then they looking for money. They looking for money or dick. That's it. That's it. That is it. That's all they want. Money or dick. That's all you can do for white women. That's all they want. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But but going back to the agenda, which was our topic, actually, this opportunity, the agenda, like I said, not everything is perfect, and you're not ever going to have anything that is perfect. But as a framework and as the first of its kind, I appreciate the things that are in there. Two things that three things that stuck out to me that I really appreciated was the part about the black farmers and ranchers, because we know how they have been disproportionately disenfranchised. The black farmers and black ranchers. I like the part about the cryptocurrency because I noticed a lot of black men I know personally have really they're not well vested in the stock market, but they really have um, began to dive head first into cryptocurrency, and that started maybe about 8 or 9 years ago.
Hmm.
And they have really, and a lot of them have lost a lot of money because of cryptocurrency and had nefarious things happen. You've seen, several people sentenced to prison because of that and things like that. But putting in a plan to safeguard um black men from all of the things that could happen should something happen with cryptocurrency. And then the part about black teachers, black male teachers as well. And there was another section in there where she talked about having black men have the opportunity to actually get a bank account,
Hmm.
which I see a lot of people just don't have bank accounts. So there were some things, even though there were some things that could apply to anybody, but there were some specific things that specifically did target black men. And I can appreciate that. I can absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah. I think the thing that I liked the most was how she was saying that she wanted to increase low cost internet to reduce the digital divide. And a
Hmm.
lot of people don't realize, like, as we're transitioning to more of a digital economy, not having the internet puts you behind the curve, tremendously behind the curve, especially when
Hmm.
some government services are only available online. So you can't even participate in society if you don't have access to the internet, whether that's through a computer, a laptop, smartphone, what have you. So it's just like we do need to reduce the digital divide because resources determines how successful you are in life. The more resources you have in an earlier age, the better off you'll be. Like it's not just band-aid fix for the problem, but we're looking at like long-term solutions. So I mean, I do like a lot of what she's saying. But the male teacher thing, like I didn't even realize it was that dire that we didn't
Oh
have enough
yeah.
male
Oh
teachers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Um, but I think it was well thought out, and it was multifaceted. It didn't try to just hit it on one front. It did look at a lot of different things. And so, like I said, I can appreciate that because nobody has ever tried to, even if they didn't carve out something specifically for black men, they never even tried to tell you, well, let me show you how black men have benefited or can benefit from this or how this will help. There's not even been an attempt to do that. And the fact that people can come back and start to say, well, they just try to do this to get us. Well, even if that's the case, this took time. This wasn't something that they just said, "Oh, let's just fart this out real fast." This was something that was well put together, well thought out. It had points. It had a rationale behind each of the specific points. There was buy-in if you needed that. It's just like I said, it's just these people who, instead of looking for reasons to vote for, are looking for reasons not to vote.
There was
Or
one person who they linked in one of the articles that you sent over that said it didn't do enough for felons, and I'm just like, did he miss the part where she was going to work with Congress to limit the use of your arrest history, your convictions, and your credit
in
scores
your
in employment
in your
decisions?
jobs and credit score, that's right. And
Yeah,
there was
like I mean,
also, mhm, go ahead.
I just feel like people aren't reading. but then they read to react or to respond versus reading to comprehend.
The other part is there was even mention of the George Floyd justice um uh why my brain getting the George Floyd Act. That's what I'm thinking about, the George Floyd Act. And Criminal Justice Reform Act. And there was saying that yes, we want to make sure that that is enacted so that we can do things that will help out black, and that specifically overwhelmingly helps out black men, overwhelmingly. So George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that's what it is. So yeah, people just want a reason to be contrarian. They just want a reason, and it's I have, like I said, I'm not gonna argue with these people. I'm not gonna argue. However, when things go well, they'll be right there, hands open, hands out and open, hands out and open.
It's a joke.
So, but yeah, we'll see. We have 21 days. 21 days. We'll see how this goes. And with that, we will pivot. Let's talk a little foreign affairs, foreign policy, foreign affairs.
Let's do it. Who you want to start with?
Let's let's start with Israel. Your boy Benjamin Netanyahu and the feckless, feckless United States government. Because this whole, and just to bring anybody up to speed who's not up to speed. So apparently, the United States sent another letter over to Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government. They sent this letter on Sunday to Israeli Defense Minister Gallant and the Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer. And it was from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and they warned that the U.S. is deeply alarmed by the worsening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip and demanded more action from Israel to allow aid to enter the territory. Now, then they went as far as to say um, that it that the letter called for quote urgent and sustained action by your government this month to reverse the trajectory, giving Israel 30 days to demonstrate its commitment to addressing the number of US a number of US concerns, a deadline which would elapse following the presidential election in November. And then they said it could risk facing additional that they would risk military aid and assistance from the US. I don't believe any parts of this shit, Cams. They sent the letter to these bastards. They've sent two letters to these bastards before, only for them to say, screw you, fuck you, and your letter, and we're gonna do whatever the hell we want to do. And we still sent more money and armament over there. Why should I believe them now?
I think that there's some things going on in the background. I just think that this strongly worded letter, quote unquote, as you called it, they do have very specific things that they're asking Israel for. And I will say that after Israel received it, they are at least responding to it indirectly, because now they're tweeting those, those trucks that they wouldn't let in before to provide humanitarian aid. Now they're saying, oh, well, we're letting 30 trucks a day in, but the U.S. is asking for 350 trucks. Like, they're asking for a fifth crossing. Like, we're asking them for very concrete things. My question is, this 30-day deadline is also after the election, mind you. It's after the election. So we're just punting it down down the field. What happens if they don't do anything? I mean, we still have those war hawks on both sides that are going to continue to vote to arm Israel. They're going to continue to do it until it's a politically inconvenient situation. They're going to continue to take the easy way out, which is just give Israel whatever. So I don't know. I don't know. They said that there's more
Like,
aid coming in now after the letter, but who knows what's being said in those covert channels? That's more what I'm interested in. Not the ones that the public knows about. The ones, hey, get your shit together. If not, XYZ. That's what I want to see.
first of all, the 350 trucks a day that the US asked for was disrespectful and nowhere near the amount that's needed in that area. But the fact that they didn't even give a tenth of what the US asked them to do is basically, that's even more disrespectful to me than you not sending anything. That's for me. That's me basically saying, I got it. All right, here's a little something. Get away from me. That's basically what they're saying. Benjamin Netanyahu knows full well there is no teeth behind this. This, feckless and idle threat about, withholding money and or military aid. Nobody believes that. Netanyahu doesn't believe that. No one in the American government believes that. No one across the globe believes at any point that the United States of America will withhold any amount of financial or military assistance to Israel. Here's the reason why. Because Israel's always going to have a reason why. Because as soon as the US they're going to call your bluff, US. Those other countries, as soon as you tell Israel, oh, well, you didn't do this, well, I'm going to not give you any more money or aid. Guess what them countries going to do? The next day bomb Israel and say, well, US, you ain't going to get them shit. All right, then. Let them fight their own battles and bomb the shit out of their ass. And what's going to happen? It won't even be 24 hours. What's going to happen? Immediate military aid and assistance over there, financial assistance, immediate, full throttle, unanimous consent of both parties of the house. I mean, both both parts of the Congress, both chambers of Congress. We know this.
We do. I think the only thing that really will impact whether or not they continue to receive funding from us to at the point at which we wipe our hands with them, if they continue to stoke these issues with Iran, if they target any of their nuclear or oil facilities, I think that's us pulling the plug.
Well, remember, Israel thought it was doing that. Remember, when was that? February, I think that was. Whenever that was, remember they struck a city in Iran that they thought was Iran's one of Iran's military nuclear bases. And Iran said, "Yeah, you thought you got us. That ain't where we keep our shit at, bruh. Try again." And that's when, remember, Iran sent all of those bombs at Israel after that.
Yep.
So, and we still sent more money. So I don't. They've done everything to incite more warfare. They're doing nothing to de-escalate, and we're doing nothing to give them any reason to de-escalate.
No, it's like we're essentially putting the battery in their back is what I would say. But I think that it's going to be there needs to be some multi-party talks to at least cool this down. But until Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer the prime minister, I don't think that we're going to see any progress.
But here's the part that I think that we're not looking at either. They always want to talk about our ally Israel, our ally Israel, our ally Israel. There are other allies that we have that have said we're not here for this fuck shit.
I
France
mean,
has Spain was the first
France
one.
and Macron and Netanyahu have been going back and forth.
Right. No, Spain was first. Spain was the first one said, we're not here for this fuck shit. Nope. Nope. Sorry. France, Macron and Netanyahu already had a poor relationship because as bad as Macron is, he even looks at Netanyahu like, yeah, that's a little too conservative, even for me and my blood. And so these are countries that have all out said, we're not giving any more money or armament to Israel at all, ceased all. And I think what's going to have to happen is, and I don't even think this will help. You got to have all of our ally, everyone say we ain't giving these bastards nothing. Even England, even Germany and England, and some of our biggest allies to do that. I think that may help the U.S. look at this differently. But even in that case, I think we still will, be, stubborn and brazen about. Well, if y'all don't want to do it, we'll keep giving. Like I even think in that regard, it'll be we're not going to listen. These people are, dug their feet in the sand. I'm just saying.
I just and again, whatever. I have nothing. I have nothing positive to say. So
I don't either. It's nothing positive to say about this. And now somebody who I was talking to today about this said, "Do you think that this was Kamala's doing in telling them y'all need to do something about this? Like we can't just sit here and sit idly by. Something has to be said. Something demonstrative has to be done and said and put on paper and put in writing, which is why it was said you have until 30 days, which would be after the election. Somebody brought that up, and I said, I don't know. I can't definitively say. I don't have any reason to believe that this is
is it
coming from Kamala.
possible? Yes. Maybe if she's in Joe's ear, like, hey, this is a losing proposition to a large block of our voting populace. Like, we need these votes in Michigan. We need these votes in Minnesota. Like, we need this blue wall to come back. Potentially, that could have been the angle from which they discussed it. I mean, that's possible, but I don't know. I just feel like they need to do something because when you control the purse strings, you control the behavior. When North Korea want to get a little too foolish, what China start doing? Tightening up that coin purse until they get back
Mhm.
in line.
Speaking of which, we got issues over in North Korea now, don't we?
They over there, they acting a fool. The people just won't act right.
You want
They,
to introduce
they
that
want to take
topic?
us right to World War III.
Can you introduce the North Korea topic for us, please?
So, and South Korea's military said that on today they detected some explosions on two cross-border roads connecting South Korea to North Korea. And that this has been amidst a rapidly deteriorating diplomatic relationship and Korean relations. So, um, North Korean forces have also deployed some heavy equipment for quote unquote further operations. And then South Korea, in response, has launched some warning shots in areas south of the military demarcation line. So, looks like Pyongyang is destroying the roadways that are connecting the two countries. So that's where we're at right now.
North Korea has been on record saying we are adversarial nations. We are not we are not here to play nice with each other. The only thing we have in common is the fact that Korea is in both of our names. We are very much adversarial, and they are doing that by cutting off all entrance into North Korea. All of these railroads and roads and connections into our country. No, sorry, close the border. Close the border. We'll have none of that. The funniest part that I saw was when they said that North Korea was sending trash balloons over to South Korea. I said, wait, trash balloons? I said, is that what I think it is? Is that balloons filled with trash? Because they said South Korea was sending stuff over to North Korea, but it was balloons filled with like aid or,
Rice,
leaflets
medication.
or information to kind of help out the North Korea people. You don't think to help them out was in their balloon. But they said North Korea said, you get some of these balloons, get some of these good trash balloons. I said, bitch, listen, Kim Jong Un is so goddamn petty. Get some of this good trash. Can
I
you
just,
imagine?
I don't know. It's like there's so much more at risk than just what's going on in America. But I mean, from what I've seen of Trump's coverage on the media, he looks like he's unraveling. Like mentally, I don't think he's there anymore.
Well, let's
I was
be
gonna send that story, but I was like, well, we already knew this.
it's unconfirmed, but we know North Korea has nuclear warheads.
Now, what,
Unconfirmed,
like whether it can reach us or not, something entirely different. But
but they absolutely have them.
I mean, so does Pakistan and India,
Yep, that is true.
and
But what I'm saying
they
in terms of South Korea, if Kim Jong Un has proven he doesn't give a damn, he doesn't give a damn. So you could be talking about, a war between those two countries.
I don't think that he's as crazy as we try to make him out to be. Because mad
I
theory is
think
still a
China will
thing.
keep him in check, though.
Yeah, mad theory is still a thing. Because like once he shoots off that nuke, whether it hits South Korea or an allied country, that is the end of them as they know it.
Yeah,
We thought Hiroshima and Nagasaki was bad. Just think of what we've been able to do in all of those decades since.
the thing about it is, and I think not enough people pay attention to that because, like you said, China is very much connected to North Korea, very much. And so diplomacy is always something that you want to go into this with because while South Korea may be aligned with us, North Korea is aligned with China. And
Hmm.
a war between North Korea and South Korea basically is going to equate to a war between us and China. And I shouldn't say I don't know, but I know full well that is not something that anybody on the globe wants.
And I think that to put this in comparison, when you two countries control 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, that's the US and that's Russia. That's how many more we have than anyone else. So China knows exactly how to play this game because what they've been able to make inroads in Africa with, very soft touch, getting people loaning the money up front, having terms that they know that these African nations can't pay off, and then taking the port so they can get access to rare earth minerals that they need to build all these EVs. They're very smart. They're very smart. They're playing a long game. I'm not talking about 10, 20, I'm talking about 50 to 100. They're executing the strategy. So if they got to pull him back in line to make sure that they can get everything that they need to get, it'll be some sternly worded conversations. Because we all know he listened to China. Every time he want to get a little buck, the moment China was like, mm-mm, he fall back in line.
Mm.
Now, do we do that with these people that we have alliances with? No. See Israel.
And then there's that. Lastly, and this is a real quick hit. Um, and this is something that we've known. Every economist, everybody who has any expertise in economics has stated that no parts of the Trump economic plan will benefit anybody, and consequently, it will worsen inflation and worsen our economy. There's no parts of his economic plan that will benefit anyone in these yet to be United States of America. However, we're the dumbest country on earth because when the experts tell us that, what do? We have every poll known to man saying that they trust a known a known grifter more on the economy. That's what we do in this raggedy ass country. But yeah, yeah, there's that. I'll let you go, Cams, on that because I don't have a lot for this. I never understood this, but I'll let you go.
So what I don't understand is we're going to continue to do the same things that don't work. Um, he wants to deport millions of migrant workers. Okay. So now we're impacting the food supply chain. So if you thought groceries were high now, just wait till you have crops just rotting in the fields because we don't have anybody to actually pick them. You want to put tariffs on imported goods. Tariff is a direct price increase to the end consumer. Then I think the scariest thing is he wants a voice on the Federal Reserve's interest rate policies. He wants to butt in on those decisions.
That's the part that was scariest to me.
I was just like, this dude is dangerous and incompetent because I don't understand why anyone is going to trust. Oh, he's a businessman that's declared bankruptcy how many times? I mean, and people say he's not racist, but I mean, he wasn't renting to black people. Like, what do we call that? But they think that this man is in on their side just because he says some wild stuff. Like inflation's already bad, but I think the grocery prices are going to freaking skyrocket.
Please be clear. The man can barely put a full two sentences together coherently. And that's the person who you want to be put. First of all, there was a reason that the president isn't allowed to be on that board that makes those decisions. And there's a reason he's not allowed to be a part of that process. And that's even if you're competent in that area. But you're telling me a man who's first of all not competent with anything involving money and or economics, one, and two, a man whose mind is in decline and we've seen unraveling and barely able to put coherent complete sentences together. You want him over it? The same man who came up with a plan that every economist said would not work. I mean, I'm just trying to figure you people out.
I mean, because the thing that really struck me was they were saying if we continue on the same economic path that we're doing now under this Biden economy, in 2026, they're forecasting that inflation will be 1.9%. However, if we were to take these economic policies under the Trump administration, the second year of it, like the second year, will be between 6% and 9.3% for inflation. He would literally wipe out a majority of the middle class because then now we're looking at an economy like Venezuela.
Mm.
But he's a smart businessman. He was on reality TV, so I guess that's a good reason to vote for him. I don't know. Just on the merits alone, his plan makes no sense because tariffs don't do shit but increase prices for us.
I, you know, I'm not gonna go back and forth with people. If this is what the people want, you vote how you want to vote. You know, sometimes, as black people, we gonna be all right. we were here at and have made it through every part of American history, good, bad, and in between. We know how to deal with bad. Sometimes these people got to sometimes shit got to go to hell in the handbasket for these people to understand.
Sometimes we just have to be there and just say, "I told you so."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
my mom always said, "A hard head makes a soft ass."
So, but yeah, that is what we got going on. Like I said, we have real stuff that's really going on. And I want to thank Kamz for being here each week, being my handsome co-host. He reminded me that today, y'all, that he's here to look good and to give eye candy and don't ask him to do nothing else. That's what he told me earlier
I said I do
backstage.
color commentary.
Mm.
That's what I said I do. I said I do color commentary. That's what I'm here for.
Anyway, but I thank him nonetheless for being here so we can discuss these important topics. And I thank each of y'all. I know Samara and Ronald and Jason, all y'all that's in here that's been in here. I don't want to start calling names because I miss some people, Miss Baythang, Nessa, Tracy W. Y'all be up in here. Y'all be really vested in. I saw Sean come through, L Sid. I saw y'all come through. Uncle Jay, and y'all really be vested in because these things are important. Never let it be said that we can't be multifaceted, and we can't be well versed on a wide range of topics, especially those that we know that will directly affect us. And I could only wish that people were more inclined to be more interested in discussing things that will have an effect on them and their lives. But nevertheless, they have us. Here we are. That's all I got. That's all we got for y'all today. You have any last words for the people, sir?
No, I can't think of anything.
I didn't even put the banner up, y'all. I apologize. I should have put that up earlier, huh? My bad. Mm. I've
Slow
been on
news
live.
week. Slow news week. Hopefully, it continues that way. We don't
I've
need any
been
October surprises.
I've been on live since 5 o'clock. It is now 10:46. Over 5 hours today. Almost 6 hours. No clap, clap, clap. I need to go lay my ass down. My back is killing me.
I'm gonna lay my ass down in a
My
minute.
back is killing me. I almost can't feel my lower extremities. It's that bad.
I have a very busy day tomorrow, unfortunately.
Mm. Anyway, we're gonna get out of here, y'all. We will be back next week. I'm really looking forward to election day. I want to have some bells and some whistles and some stuff for us to look at and pay attention to and watch live and we'll
Oh,
start.
the forecasting. Yeah.
So thank you, Universal Goddess. Listen, I'm not doing a regular live on election day. We will do our live starting at 8 o'clock because I know it's going to be a long night. I know that. I know it's going to be a very long night on election day. Um, so why
It
did she stop talking about price gouging? It was because people on her team told her that some economists were saying that um that wasn't an effective way to get prices to come down, and they said that they really started to poke holes into it, that there wasn't enough thought put into it. So that's why. Oh, thank you earlier, Nessa sent me a cash app earlier to help pay for my gin, and I want to thank Nessa publicly. Oh, my side hurt. Oh God, I need to go lay down. Oh God. But mm. But yeah, it's that's a big piece of the reason why, because when she first announced it, and a lot of economists started to poke holes into it and say that her or her plan did not really address that issue. You've seen her back off of it. It's still a part of her plan, but she's just not as vocal about
because
it.
it was in her present her economic opportunities for black men. It was listed.
Hmm. Hmm. So it's still a part of her economic agenda. She's just not being as vocal, so as not to have economists come out here and rip it to shreds.
Also, I do have something to add. Don't focus so much at what's going on at the top of the ticket. Look at what's going on in your local elections. Your local elections matter quite a bit. Because if you're mad about them potholes and you electing a person that's doesn't think government works, then them potholes gonna be there. Because I'm voting my mayor out just based on the damn potholes. Like, what the fuck we doing about these damn potholes? I'm just saying, can't be replacing an axle every winter. Shit's expensive.
Well,
But you shaking your head at me for that? I mean,
no,
that.
I'm with you because potholes are the bane of my existence. Please be clear.
Plus, I was just in St. Louis where I dodged a pothole just to hit another one.
Mm.
I was in St. Louis last weekend. I had a ball though. I did. I had a
I'll
great time.
be in St. Louis next June, in
I
July.
had I had an amazing time for my friend's birthday, but I did realize my age that Saturday morning.
Are you gonna come with me to Columbia for the Columbia trip?
Send me the details.
You can stay in my room.
Send me the details, and I have my own damn room. Thank you.
God,
I got my own man.
more money than me, right?
No, we know you the paid
Mm,
one. No, I'm
mm.
sure.
Anyway, let's get off. Listen, y'all. We love y'all. Until next time, like we always say, regardless if the country is red or blue, we will always be black.
Black,
And we
black,
thank
blackity,
y'all.
black, black, black.
Black, black. Bye, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.